Hey guys, this week we're going to be uh, going back to aircraft again, and we'll be looking at the 1/48 scale PT-17 Stearman from Revell. Now there are two different boxings of this kit, one by Revell and actually I believe they're both by quote Revell. Just one comes in this style of boxing, and the other comes in a black style box. It's depending on when the particular version was printed, but let's dive in. All right. Move that aside. So I opened that up to make it a little easier to get into the kit. So first up, we have our first fuselage half. All the detail is nicely engraved. There's a lot of small, if I hold it the right side up, there is some small riveting detail, and the landing gear, which is fixed, is nicely detailed. Sidewalling is also nicely in-scaled. So overall, right out of the gate, they've done a great job doing this kit right. Continuing on, one thing they do on this kit is they have the tail gear attached to the fuselage half. It would have been nice had they had that separate, partially help ensure you don't accidentally break it, partially ensure proper detailing, but I digress. Also included is our vertical stab. Again, finely engraved detail, so very nice. Excuse me. Continuing on, we have most of our internal detailing, including our sidewall supports for both the left and the right, as well as the floor, our two pilot seats, which do include molded on seat belts, which unfortunately are not that great. It's a bit of a letdown there. So your best bet is to scrape those off and source replacements. And hopefully this will show up on camera. Otherwise, I would say, you can make do with them, but overall you'd be better off replacing them. Continuing on, we also have our two main wheels as well as their supporting hubs and various other detailing parts that go towards building up the engine and the upper part of the cockpit area. Next up, we have two sets of wing halves for upper and lower wings. Again, they do a nice job of detailing these. We'll get more into some of the rigging that needs to be done with these when we get into the instruction sheet in a minute or two. Next up, we have our horizontal stabs, which unfortunately do have a fair amount of flashing around the part, so that will add a little bit of extra cleanup, as well as some control rods. Next, we've got the cowling area, as well as our engine mount, which is very nice that they do include more of the buildup of the engine. Allows for a lot more options this way. And speaking of the engine, we move on to it. Overall, the detail is very nice, albeit, obviously resin and photo etch sets would supplement this very nicely. To the best of my knowledge, I have not been able to find a resin replacement for this particular engine, but there are photo etch sets available from Edwards. You also include our single prop, and they do also include two different types of covers for it. Continue on, we've got our wing struts that go at the end, Not a whole lot to say here. Oh, excuse me. They also included a second prop for the other style. My apologies. Last up are our clear parts. Overall, they're nicely detailed, so right out the gate, you're good to go there. If I can pick it up. Moving on to the decal sheet, you have markings for two different aircraft, one an Army Air Corps aircraft and the other a U.S. Navy aircraft. Overall, I'd say the color saturation is a little over, especially in the yellows and a little under in the reds. So decal sheet could be better, but as far as the stencils are concerned, there's no issue there. Obviously, alternatively, since Stearmans have, since they were built, have basically gone everywhere, it's more than likely, if you want to, you can more than easily build a privately owned Stearman. Albeit you're going to have to come up with some way to do the proper markings, but that's not going to be too difficult. So moving on to the instructions. Obviously, starts building up in the cockpit, obviously with the front and back controls. Since you're technically building from off these support rails, it does make for a little bit different experience, and at the same time makes it a little more challenging, obviously, since they are thin parts, so you will have to be careful not to break them, obviously. But once you get past there, it does ease out in difficulty, as once everything's buttoned up, there's not a whole lot that can trip you up. Excuse me. Again, like I said, two different styles of propeller is something to be aware of, and make sure you're using the right one. Unfortunately, that's one of the things you're going to have to research on your own, as it will vary, both in terms of when it was built and who was operating it. So it's something to be aware of. In building up from the wings. Now, after we get through here, this is where things get a little interesting, as this aircraft does have a fair amount of rigging to it. Now, this is something I would suggest you do as you go, as I've seen a lot of photos where the rigging is actually painted the fuselage color. Great thing about this, though, they do include measurements for all the rigging, so you can, with some degree of accuracy, get the rigging done without too much difficulty. Personally, though, one thing I would suggest is, with some of these longer ones, actually do drill out the holes, and before you close up the wings, for example, actually run the full length and connect it back into the middle fuselage. Now, this will take a little more time, but you're less likely to goof up, and it allows you a little bit more play, so that, you know, if you mismeasured some, you can, you know, obviously tighten and get the proper length once it's fully put together. As I said before, two different marking options. Again, pay attention to the which propeller to use, depending on who's operating it and when. Again, that's something you're going to have to, unfortunately, research on your own, as there are sufficient differences that, you know, it's going to be unique to the one you're wanting to build. So let me button this up, and I'll give you final thoughts. So, overall, it is a great kit out of the box. I'm thoroughly impressed with the job Revell did. Overall, there was really not a whole lot of ways you can improve on it. You know, it would be nice if it did come with, or there were options available for a resin engine replacement, so you get a little more detail there. There are aftermarket photo etch available from Edwards, which, thankfully, if you get the full shebang big Ed pack, it's not too expensive. So overall, since you can find this kit at like Michael's or Hobby Lobby, you can get it pretty cheap, get the detail set, and build up a fairly detailed kit without breaking the bank. And even if you don't go that route, it's still a nicely detailed kit right out of the box. Revell did a fantastic job with this kit. I really have nothing that I can complain about this kit. I had bought this initially to do as a contest piece, and I'm glad I did. It's a fun looking kit to build. So that was a look at Revell's 1/48 scale PT-17 Stearman. And until next time.